If you or a loved one has ever filed a personal injury claim, well, you know already that process is time consuming. It's not always easy. And if there's a settlement, you might think, wow, once I get that check, that's the end of the road. But there are other things that you should consider, especially if you're planning for a settlement. And for that, Tom Sinus from Sinus Dramus Law Firm has some thoughts. Hey, Tom.
Hey, Todd, how are you?
I'm well. Let's start first with everybody's favorite topic, taxes. If I get a big windfall, right, does that mean I've got a tax bomb?
It's funny, right? The taxes question is everywhere, even in the world of personal injury. So here's the simple and general answer. Personal injury settlements are generally not taxable under either federal rules of taxation or the state rules of taxation. That has been pretty clear for a long time. So if you're receiving a lump sum settlement from a personal injury claim, say a car crash case or something like that, the settlement proceeds can be claimed and they are not taxable. There are some limited exceptions to this, things like punitive damages, which we really don't have in Michigan, or if someone is receiving, say, emotional distress damages that have nothing to do with personal injury. And there are some other ones, but the general rule is no. This is the one area where there's a bit of good news on the tax front, that a personal injury settlement is not a taxable event.
When I do get that money, let's just throw a number out here. Let's just say I got a settlement for $100,000. All right, really great settlement on this personal injury claim. So I don't have to pay the taxes on that. But when I get that money as a big lump sum, doesn't that shoot me into a higher tax bracket? I mean, are people required to take this as one lump sum, or can they divvy it up?
Well, it won't put you in a higher tax bracket because it's not taxable income. But your other question there is whether or not people have to take a settlement in a lump sum. And the answer is no, they don't have to. Most people do. But there are other ways to plan for settlement proceeds, particularly in cases where someone is receiving a very large settlement, or perhaps they're worried about their ability to control their finances, or they want to have, for some reason, a sort of structured budgeting process for the money that they receive. And one common area here is what's called a structured settlement. A structured settlement, simply put, is an annuity. It's an annuity that is funded by the settlement proceeds. And so the person who receives the money can choose to buy one of these annuities, and the annuities can pay out in all sorts of different combinations. They can pay out over the course of every year, or multiple times a year, or at every other year, or every 5 years. It's really up to the person who's receiving the settlement. But it takes the money and it converts it into this annuity payment stream, which provides for this regularity of payments. And the other thing that's important here on the issue of taxes is that these annuities, these structured settlement annuities, they pay a rate of return. And if the money is in a structured settlement, then the rate of return, the interest payment on the structured settlement, is not taxable. Now, that's different than if you take a lump sum settlement and then you purchase, say, a government bond, or you purchase your own annuity, or you invest the money in the stock market. The returns that you make on those type of investments, those returns are taxable, even though the settlement itself is not. By using a structured settlement, which makes sense in some cases, people can receive not only their settlement amount non-taxable, but the returns that they earn on that money can be non-taxable. Now, whether this is a good idea very much depends upon the particular case, but it's something that most people don't know about, certainly if they've never had a personal injury case.
And of course, you are the expert in this field. A lot of moving parts when it comes to this stuff. So why not toss in another one? What if somebody is on, say, governmental assistance like Medicaid? Does that change anything?
Great question. And we talked about this in an earlier segment. People who receive government assistance like Medicaid, if those people receive a lump sum settlement from a personal injury case, the receipt of that money could disqualify them from those governmental assistance programs. So there are ways to plan for settlement money by putting the money into particular kinds of trusts. And these are trusts that are authorized by law, they're allowed by law. And what they, in short, allow the person to do is to receive their settlement money, to place it into the trust, which can be used to be spent on certain things, and then preserve their eligibility for a program like Medicaid. But again, that has to be done and planned for before the settlement check arrives. Because if it isn't, then the person can have that unintended consequence moment of of losing their Medicaid insurance. So there are these considerations that go beyond just receiving a check, even though many people can receive a check and that's just fine. But there are these considerations that people need to be aware of, because as you said, when you get to the end of the road, you think that's exactly the end of the road, but there may be a few other twists and turns there at the end.
Learned a lot of valuable information. It's not taxable income, not going to throw you into a higher tax bracket. So you get to keep all that money. Of course, you can take it any way you want, lump sum, or in these, as you mentioned, structured settlements. And then you get to the Medicaid issue where hey, you don't want to be knocked out of your eligibility. So make sure you plan for that before you get that check. Always great info, Tom. If people need more, maybe they have a follow-up question, how can they get a hold of you?
They can find us online at www.sinusdramus.com. You can shoot us an email at info@sinusdramus.com or give us a call in West Michigan at 616-301-3333.